Backed up to this and the lake. After about a half an hour, we stopped and he said, look, this is what I want to show you. I turned and saw a beautiful wetland scene. Sand, I don't know if she's saying shallows or swallows. Reeds, cattails, still water, and blue sky. All green, gold, and blue. A very special memory and a gift from my little brother. 18. That summer, I didn't even know this one. That summer, Tim decided to visit me in California. So he left Florida with a can of corn, and a dime. He hitched rides across the U.S. Truckers were his main drive, and they would even buy him meals. It took him 6 days. He would use the dime to get the phone operator to call me and reverse the charges. He would get the dime back and do it again for the next check-in call. The last time he called me, he was 3 blocks from my house. We went and got him, and I told him we would have brought him a plane ticket. He said that would not have been as much fun. Every time I came to Florida, he would always get together with me. He would go out to dinner and just visit. One night after dinner, he took me to a Clearwater beach. We walked in between 2 high-rise buildings to sit on a bench that faced the beach. No one was out. It was very quiet. The sand was so white it glowed. The wave line was gentle with small white caps. The water was darker than the night sky. Over all this beauty was a large, bright, full moon. It was stunning. Another sweet gift to me from my little brother. Stephanie, I hope all goes as you would like with Tim's Celebration of Life gathering. I know you will be pleased and surprised at some of the memories that will be shared. Take care of yourself and keep moving forward. Tim would want you to do that. Loving thoughts to you. Love, Kathleen. And she's a keeper. Okay. And now I have 2 letters here. One is hard for me. Really hard. That's from Mommy. Okay. But this one is from Tammy, his sister who's not here right now. Tim's true soul may have been secret to most of us, but God holds it dear. My memories of my brother, I'm sure, are a little different than most. I find them funny and endearing now, so I would like to share them with you. We lived in Wisconsin on a large farm. We didn't really have a farm, but it was that kind of area. It was about 7 years old, which made Tim about 13. We had a long, very bad snowstorm with drifts, some reaching 4 feet or better. I remember that. It was 6 feet. Anyway, and Tim was outside making what I assumed to be a snow fort. I ran out excited, hoping he would let me play. Well, she should have known better. Well, he had his own plan. So he tells me to come over and see what he's done. Of course, being a dumb, trusting little sister, I took his direction into his tunnel through a 4 feet drift where one end started at one iced over apple tree and about 6 yards, I think, to another. Understand now that this hole was totally collapsible snow. By using me to go first, he was satisfied it would be solid enough for him. But here's my favorite. Tim was working hard on one of his many projects for about a week, wanting to show off what he had learned to do. He set up a way to get the most satisfaction. Terrorized Tammy. He did enjoy that, I have to say. He took my favorite doll into my room while I was at school, and when I came home, I opened my bedroom door, and my beloved baby was hanging from the ceiling by Tim's perfect, authentic noose with a scream of terror, and subsequent tears made all of his hard work worth it. Hey, what are brothers for? Tim, may God bless you with the peace and comfort you richly deserved in life. Love, Tim.
Poor Tim.
One of his last things, I remember, he told me, he said, I really do feel bad about doing that to his daughter doll. So bless his heart, he was sorry. This is from my mother, and she is a sweet loving person. Mom wanted to always remember the last day she spent with Tim. The family had gotten together because Kathleen was visiting, and this was last Christmas. All of us were having dinner at the table. Tim and Mother, Tim couldn't eat. Tim and Mother were sitting together in the living room with her dinner plate on her lap. Tim pouring his dinner into his feeding tube, his body so frail, and he was having a terrible time with his feet hurting. He had huge blisters on his feet from chemo. And Mom says Tim looked over and noticed one of her socks was coming off. Mom has dancing feet. She wears socks because her feet are cold, but she can't stop moving them. And they're always coming off. Everybody, even the grandchildren, have learned to come over and pull it up before it hits the floor. But Mom says Tim looked over and noticed her sock was coming off. So he sweetly leaned over, set his dinner drink aside, and slid her sock back on for her, paying no mind to how he was feeling, yet concerned that his mommy her feet might get cold. This moment touched her heart, and she says, "Rest quietly, my son, I love you." And she sure did. So, yeah. I told a story about New York. He also built a fort in our garage to bring girls up to. But I don't want to go into that too much. He was something else, let me tell you. He taught me all the things to look out for. But I just want to say that I pray he's at a banquet table with Jesus and with Jesse and with Daddy and with all the good people that went before him. I do pray that. And I know he didn't want a religious ceremony, but God gave me the strength to stand up here and talk because I'm not this strong. And pray for his soul. I want him sitting at that banquet eating some good food. And that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm George Jimenez and been friends with Tim for almost 20 years. It's with great sadness I stand in front of you today to celebrate the life of our friend Tim. He was too young to leave us too soon. He fought cancer for 7 years and an infection ended his life. Tim and I met hanging out at the pool table. Shadrack's playing 3-ball. A bunch of us met every Friday night at Shadrack's and later in years the Undertow. It was a ritual we did every Friday night, and Tim was known as the legend at 3-ball. Not sure how he really got the name. But he was definitely a great pool player, and he told me most of the time, "Get ready for your lesson." It was really good. Tim helped me out a lot with my dad when he was having troubles with the start of dementia. So my dad and Tim enjoyed each other, going to movies and lunch every now and then. He was really kind to my dad, and I loved him for that. And Tim and I spent a lot of time at Derby Lane. He loved to bet the doggies. I was playing poker. But he liked gambling, and he loved to bet the dogs and himself in pool. So, Stephanie, Tim, my wife, Lisa, and I spent a lot of time together. It was Easter hunt, egg hunt at Easter, occasional holiday, a birthday celebration, hanging out at Shadrack's or just hanging out at the pool. But he could always make us laugh. So, at Shadrack's, he had spent a lot of time there, and he was having some drinks with Johnny Rogers, an old friend. And Tim didn't really like the conversation. So he called Johnny a big fat fuck. That's just the beginning. So Johnny didn't really like that much. He got up off his bar stool, grabbed Tim by the throat, and put him up against the wall. Now Tim's telling me this story. He's up against the wall with Johnny's throat on him, and Johnny's yelling at him, "What did you call me?" And Tim all continues to say is, "A big black duck, a big black duck." I think they sat down and finished the beer at that time. Oh. He was funny and quick, both. Tim's love of music gave us a really big commonality, and he played his guitar a lot. And one day he told me he wanted to learn how to play the harmonica. So his birthday was around the corner. I got us a couple of harmonicas, a couple of songbooks. Next thing you know, we're sitting down together. We tried to play a harmonica. Neither of us could play the harmonica. So it didn't work out too well. But that was Tim. He always wanted to try something new with the things he liked to do. And music was definitely one of them. He bought me a Jimi Hendrix CD one time, released probably 30 years after Jimi had passed away. But Tim read about it and somehow found it for me. Tim loved music. Did y'all know that Tim was on a live recording of a Jackson Browne album?
Yeah.
He was at a concert in D.C., and at the end of one of the songs, you could hear Tim's loud, "Woo!" Clear as the day. Clear as the day. He also loved knowledge. He loved to watch news programs, all the channels. He absorbed everything from politics and the environment to history and innovation. He loved reading so much that he got a subscription to the New York Times. So one weekend he calls me up. He says, "I got a great article you just have to read." It was all about indoor farming, and they were taking empty 10 to 15 story buildings in the city and putting crops in there and making vertical farms. He thought since I was in the irrigation business that we could do that someday together. So he came over with the article, made me read it. We sat there all day partying and just thought ways that we could make our own vertical farm one day in downtown St. Petersburg. That's just one of the stories that fascinated Tim that I can remember. So, many of you know that Tim made a living as a window washer. And that got him on the news one night. He had been washing windows at the Barnett Bank building, one of the tallest buildings in downtown Tampa. And he was on a suspended Bosun chair, and the wind was blowing hard enough that the suction cups came unstuck and got his ropes tangled above him. So he's hanging there, and he looks in the window and he sees some women working. And in big letters, he writes, "Help!" with a big exclamation mark. Well, that's all they could read. Oh my God! It just so happened that one of the women working that day, her husband was working at the TV station, so they sent a news crew to film it. Of course, Tim eventually got down, and they interviewed him for the evening news. It's amazing. Something that was brought up earlier, Tim loved animals, and he loved babies. He saved a little girl's kitty one time in 1980, and Steph didn't know the whole story, but the little girl sent him a thank you card that he kept for all these years.